They thought they had me figured out. They thought they could push, pull, and twist me until I finally broke. Every smirk, every calculated insult, every silent treatment was meant to push me over the edge. They waited for my anger to explode, for my patience to run dry, for my voice to crack under the pressure. But it never happened. I didn't shatter. I didn't even flinch. I let them believe they were in control, that their plan was working. But all along, I was steps ahead, watching, learning, and waiting for the perfect moment to move. They were so busy celebrating what they thought was their victory that they never realized the game had already shifted in my favor. And when the time came, every move they made only tightened the trap they didn't know they were walking into. They thought they were winning, but I was already holding the checkmate. They threw everything they had at me, lies whispered in dark corners, stories twisted just enough to poison the air, petty traps meant to spark a reaction. They played every trick in their worn-out little book, convinced that sooner or later I'd crack. They needed me to lash out so they could point and say, "See, I told you so." But the thing they never understood was that I wasn't here to play their game. I let their words pass over me like wind through an open field, never settling, never sinking in. Every attempt to provoke me only showed me how desperate they really were. They mistook my calm for surrender, my patience for defeat. But what they didn't see was the way I was studying every move, memorizing their patterns, already planning my counter moves before they even knew they'd made theirs. Silence became my sharpest weapon. They thought my quiet was weakness, but it was the opposite. It was control. While they tried to stir chaos, I gave them nothing. No anger, no outrage, not a single drop of the reaction they were starving for. And in that void, their own noise began to consume them. They were shouting into an empty room, performing for an audience that had already left. The more they pushed, the more they revealed their hand. And I, sitting in stillness, let them. Because silence doesn't just end a conversation, it ends a strategy. Without my engagement, every one of their carefully planned plays collapsed in on itself. The truth is, I was never reacting, I was directing. Every choice I made, every moment I refused to respond was deliberate. I was moving pieces they couldn't see, preparing the board for an ending they didn't think possible. They were playing checkers on a board where I was already 10 moves ahead in chess. While they obsessed over short-term wins, I was focused on the end game. And in that game, patience isn't just a virtue, it's the deciding factor. They thought they were pulling the strings, but they were only tightening the knots around themselves. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for, the turning point. You could see it in their eyes when it finally clicked. They'd lost control. Their voice got sharper, their moves more frantic, their lies sloppier. They started scrambling, trying to salvage the crumbling image they'd built. But there's no recovering from a game you've already lost. Without my participation, their drama had no fuel, their fire no oxygen. It burned out in silence, leaving only smoke and the sting of their own failure. And while they stood there in the ashes, I walked away, untouched. No fights, no scenes, no desperate attempts to prove my worth. Just a quiet exit, head high, knowing I'd won without lowering myself to their level. That's the kind of victory they can't understand. A win earned by restraint, by control. by refusing to give them the chaos they craved. And as I moved forward, they stayed exactly where they were, trapped in the same tired patterns that would keep them losing long after I was gone. That's the lesson they'll never admit but will never forget. The long game always belongs to the one willing to play it. Strength isn't loud, it isn't reckless, it's calm, it's deliberate, it's the ability to see every move before it's made and act with precision instead of impulse. They'll replay it in their heads for years, wondering how they lost when they thought they were winning. But the answer is simple. They never realized I was already 3 steps ahead before they even started. And by the time they did, it was already over, because that's the beauty of playing every move ahead. You don't just win the game, you own it. And once you've claimed that kind of victory, there's no going back. They can stew in their regret, rewrite the story in their heads, and try to convince themselves they had the upper hand. But deep down, they know the truth. I didn't just beat them. I dismantled the game they thought they were playing. And that is the kind of defeat you never recover from.